Conservatives' takeover of Supreme Court stalled by John Roberts-Brett Kavanaugh bromance. Washington that was anticipated following President Donald Trump's two selections has been stalled by a budding bromance between the senior and junior justices. Chief Justice John Roberts and the court's newest member, Brett Kavanaugh, have voted in tandem on nearly every case that's come before them since Kavanaugh joined the court in October. They've been more likely. The two justices, both alumni of the same District of Columbia-based Federal Appeals Court, have split publicly only once in 25 official decisions. Their partnership has extended, though less reliably, to orders the court has issued on abortion funding, immigration and the death penalty in the 6 months since Kavanaugh ended in a 50-48 vote. Roberts and Kavanaugh have obvious reasons for their reluctance to join the court's three other conservatives in ideological harmony. The Chief Justice.
Raindrop, drop top, smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.